Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Anish. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at T-Hub. And today with me on my podcast, I've got somebody really exciting, somebody who's like a global personality. All of us probably have know about him and about his organization. He's Sudhir Pai. He's the CTIO of Capgemini. All of us have heard about Capgemini, but it will be really interesting to hear about Sudhir. One is about a bit of his personal journey, about where he is from, what he has been doing over the last so many decades, and thereafter a bit about how Capgemini is thinking about financial services, inclusion, and so on and so forth. Right. So I'll now request Sudhir to please take up and let me know something about Sudhir, about yourself, where do you belong from, what do you call home, and then probably we can subsequently move on to what Capgemini does.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Anish. It was really nice to meet you today in person, as well as spend time in T-Hub. My job in the company, I'm a CTIO, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for Financial Services business, which is a global business at Capgemini, close to 25% of Capgemini's overall business. Capgemini is close to 340,000 people worldwide.
Wow.
Global organization. My native, of course, I'm from India, and now migrated and live in Australia with family for the last 23 years. In this job, I'm responsible to look at all the nice things that are happening in the future. In my company, we say I'm the lucky one to look at the future and not only look at it, but bring it back to our organization, our clients, and how we can be ready to face, because we live in a very dynamic world. Things are changing quite rapidly in finance industry. So my future is depending on how to make the future to be ready now for our clients.
But a job must be taking you traveling all over the world, right? I mean, how often do you travel? How far do you travel?
I do travel fair bit because what we call as, if I have to anticipate the next, then I have to be familiar with it based on the need and the impact that we can make it to the business. And I travel quite often. Of course, COVID was, I think, a couple of years of rest in a way.
Yeah.
And the expectation out of this role, as you know, Anish, is to bring the global perspectives and knowledge to different parts of the world, and hence travel helps in that context. But it will take out a lot of your personal time and family time as well.
Of course. But it must be really exciting to be able to be at the frontier, cutting edge of having a view of all of these technologies, which are actually something which are looking into the future, right? Many of them must be in early stage, which are actually futuristic technologies, which is going to be shaping on how financial services is going to be looked at in the future. So we keep hearing about a lot of these technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, distributed ledger, and all of that pieces, right? So how do you think these pieces fit into the future of financial services, for example, right? We understand that these are horizontals and these will probably impact every sector, but some sectors will definitely be more impacted than the others. So from a financial services sector or a banking financial services sector, how do you think these technologies are going to impact these sectors?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And let me start with what I have seen over the very recent times is, I would call it as more of a convergence of three broad technology foundations or themes. Now, one which we all grew up, I would say, on the digital, which is the bits and the bytes.
Yeah.
And that has helped to transform a lot of industry, including finance industry, till now. And this includes digitization of front to back, providing better experience to customers, streamlining operations, and so on.
Yeah.
So that is one bit. Now we are pushing the limit to acting like humans, which is the neural networks. So from bits and bytes, we are going to the world of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence, like all industries, finance has lots of benefits to reap. Because we know our industry is highly regulated, we have such a complex process, millions of documentation process that we have to go through. I think AI is going to sort of reimagine the future of finance. We call it as an AI native finance, both for customers as well as for contact centers, the way I interact with the bank, the way I deal with bank going forward, as well as for back-end operations of the bank, including fraud management, risk management, and some of the core pillars of banking is going to have an impact. So that's the second foundational element. We started with digital, looking at AI, and if you add the third pillar, this is what I say, maybe it is in our lifetime we see a digital transformation going through all three pillars. And the third pillar to me, which is very relevant, is quantum. Because quantum is going to probably not a replacement, but do certain complex problems in a very different
more
way.
Efficiently,
Right? So it may be underwriting of risk. It might be optimization of portfolio. It might be trade. Many things in the finance area are going to get transformed. So put it this way, that if I look at the convergence, probably we are going to say in less than 5 years, maybe 10, I don't know, we'll be able to solve maybe 10 times more complex problems.
At maybe one-tenth
of the cost. So I think we are at that journey, and I'm glad that I'm probably going to experience the full breadth of all these three major disruptions in our lifetime.
I think that is something which excites me also at my current role at T-Hub, right? We get to see such exciting, innovative startup founders who are working on tomorrow's problems, right? And again, something that we've seen is like together, and we've mentioned it continuously, is that the half-life of technology is around 8 months now, right? So that is the pace at which technology is becoming irrelevant today as you keep forward. So do you think the financial services sector is ready to absorb or to keep pace with that kind of a transformation? Or are new startups going to come out with new models which are going to totally disrupt and maybe at a certain point of time make existential banking financial services irrelevant?
I think the main challenge I have seen is for banking industry is not so much about whether I can invest on emerging technologies. It is more of, can I catch up with the pace of change today? Because the amount of changes happening is exponential. So as much as if you have seen last week Google Next conference alone, they have made 218 new releases as announcement just in one go. So if you multiply that with the top 5 big technology companies,
that's about 1,000.
About 1,000 new services being coming every year. So for me to keep up to this change is a difficult one as a bank or an insurer for that matter. Second problem is, even if I decide to go after something, and which you just mentioned, it is very hard for me to roll it out or deploy it within an enterprise, which is typically 50, 60, 100, 150 year old. And the complexity of banking is you need to serve the need for everybody. Right? So you have to make sure it is rural, it is inclusive, and a broad spectrum of products and services. So if you look at that versus the speed and enterprise deployment, we have much complex problem to solve, and hence the industry takes longer time unless it is built around innovation and the agility that we're talking about.
So I think, maybe one of the key takeaways for our startups founders could be is, when you're building itself, build for compliance.
Yes.
Right? Build for regulatory.
Exactly.
Right? And build to help these larger institutions adapt you more faster.
That's right.
Right? So if I'm building for a bank, maybe I have to take into consideration that there are processes which are being formed for 20, 30 years. And then without causing too much of disruption in your internal procedures, how can I help you integrate this new technology?
Spot on. Yeah. I think we always go with the assumption, even in our innovation, is that innovation has to be built keeping scale in mind, and how seamlessly you can transfer what you have built as an experiment finally to deployment. So if you don't have that vision, then you are always stuck. And we see today lot of institutions are in the phase, particularly in generative AI. So we have done a lot of initial experiments. We know it is beneficial. We know there is value. But now when I transform that to scale, I'll have to address so many other hurdles, including operating model, cost associated with it, security, maintainability, compliance, and so on. And then that starts to build build upon to the speed in which you would like to deploy.
Absolutely fantastic. The other thing that I want, maybe a lot of but this is from the user perspective, right? The way banking is done is seen a rapid transformation, right? Earlier on, it was like a bank-centric financial services sort of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Now it's starting to be more client-centric.
Yep.
How can I make the experience better? How can I reduce the number of interactions and still make the work go on as per usual, right? Now to add to that, I think newer platforms like maybe the UPI, right, or equivalent such other platforms are coming up, which is making transactions so much more smoother, faster, more efficient. So customer centricity in banking and financial services is coming out like a very big theme right now, right?
Correct.
The bank says ki, I don't mind taking a bit of discomfort as an institution as long as my customer is really engaged with me and very happy with me. So do you see that as a trend, and do you see it, newer technologies impacting that further? It'll going to get better from here, or banking is going to say that no, okay, there are certain regulations and certain these things, and we want to like not focus so much on go back to the old regulatory wala regime?
I think if you look at retail banking, to large extent, it's already transformed, keeping end consumers in mind.
Yeah.
Because consumers today are quite demanding when it comes to digital. And we have done quite a few research from Capgemini in this regard, right? So it's not just one segment. Our research also shows it is across all segments. So even elderly are now quite comfortable using digital technologies. So the consumer demand is already pushing banks to be friendly, and as friendly as a retail or any other big technology interactions today, or my interaction I have with my phone apps today. So I think that is pretty much done to a large extent. But now where transformation is heading to is, can I do a similar experience with my corporate customers, small to medium businesses, trade, and various other areas where I think a lot can be done. And that's where you have seen the regulations coming for, can we move from T+3 to T+1 type of settlement? Can I instantly settle? Imagine when I establish a small business, getting cash in my account much faster, right? So without waiting for 2 days, 3 days.
Your working capital, cash flow problems get solved.
Look at cash management from a treasury point of view and so on. So look at the foreign exchange, cross-border payments, the amount of fees that is going in cross-border. I think those are the ripe for the next wave of transformation in terms of banking.
So if I have to understand right, that value chain is going to go up now. Rather than, right now UPI probably is built and centered around a individual consumer layer, right? As a consumer layer, it is likely to go up to a retail layer, and then SME layer, and then an institutional layer, with all of them having technology built around for their specific use case.
That's right. And if you look at the globalization impact as well. So if I have to if I'm based in Australia, I have a company in Singapore, I'm paying in US dollars. These things today, it's very complex. Because you are depending on foreign exchange, you're depending on correspondence, banks, etc., etc. It's not seamless, and it is expensive. So I think those are the areas where digital transformation for banking is going to help in the future.
And also, if I have to bring the conversation back to maybe the consumer, the retail, the guy who's on the road, who's using a banking service, right? That has moved towards lifestyle and finance combination, right? Or it can be more trust, happiness, right? Experiential sort of a banking, right? So how is that trend working out, right? Is it moving towards that?
Yeah. So I think we pretty much see across the board what we call as a primary customer or a goal-based approach, right? So I am going with an individual, not just for my saving account, but probably bank will help me to set me as an individual. What are my goals? What do I want to achieve in life? Short term, medium term, long term, and then associate my objectives with bank. Bank will associate bank's objective to my objective. My short-term objective is I'm relocating, or I am studying, or I'm getting married, or I'm starting a business, or things like that. and then build upon that. And it need not be only banking services. And going back to your statement of, it could be a marketplace, it could be extending my service to other industries, insurance, and or buying a house, or we always say buying a house is not just about home lending. It is look, buy, live, sell. The whole thing, whole gamut of things. Imagine bank proactively coming to me saying that, hey, look, you're changed this, your status is changed, you're relocating. How can I
How do
help
you
you?
want to,
Exactly,
move up the
the chain. So I think those are the things that would happen. Otherwise, it will remain as just transactional. Yes, you might give me an account to operate with or some interest, but that's pretty transactional for me to leave.
But again, if you look at new age fintech companies, right? Companies which are, for example, into insurance, like for example, if I have to take names, Accio Insurance, right? Or companies like Zerodha, for example, right? Which is into broking services, right? Or company which is Navi, or so on and so forth, right? There are a lot of these new age companies which traditionally should ideally have been done by banks, right? Organically, the banks, I mean, where is the white space that these opportunities are being found by new age fintech companies, and they're managing to do a lot better than existential banking and financial products, right? So, do you see banks being able to catch up to that at a certain point of time and say, okay, we are at par with everything that a new age company can come out with us, or we are as agile, saying that if there is a white space which opens up, we are agile enough to maybe get into that white space and build a business around there.
Every year in Capgemini Financial Services, we produce this World Retail Banking Report, and we also produced FinTech reports over the last few years. To answer your question, I think banks have moved on from looking at FinTech as competition into FinTech as collaboration. The reason being, bank can give a lots of data, historical data, the scale. And a fintech can bring innovation at much faster cycle.
Correct.
So if you bring the two together, I think collaboration is the only way for both the organization to be successful. Having said that, there are different models different banks have tried and being used. It's not one size fits all. Some banks would like to look at early engagement of fintechs because they believe then they have a better control on IP and what they would like to do. Some banks think that would mean they have to invest more time. So they'll better go with the ready-to-use plugins. But in that case, there is always a dependency on the people and the skill and the proprietary nature. I think the complexity comes when there is it's a very hardcore technology, artificial intelligence. If it is a black box, then it becomes more and more difficult for banks to partner because they would like to open it up and see what is there and so on. So there are different models being worked out. There are also venture models, like earlier we were talking about. Banks venture arms where they have started either a digital-only bank or started a startup on cyber or compliance technologies and so on, and see whether that can scale. Now, after ventures, they not only the first client for ventures is the bank itself, and once they test the product, then they would like to see, we partner with many of these venture companies to see if we can take that into another bank or white space or plug into something else, and they're open with that. So that way, it is a venture proven within, and now it is expanded to other organizations.
So again, we have identified that banks, financial services, the entire architecture, that infrastructure is here to stay, right? Also, on the other hand, the innovation ecosystem is here to stay. Right? So do you see organizations like Capgemini, T-Hub, for example, right? So we are interfacing with a lot of the entire innovation ecosystem. We've got like 2,500 startups who are working in various spheres, right? And then you are engaging with a lot of banks. So do you think organizations like Capgemini can actually be an interface between a lot of these traditional banks and put down a structure for them to actively engage, explore, and exploit the offers that the startup ecosystem or the innovation ecosystem is bringing out?
Yeah, I think you articulated very well. I think that's exactly our role. We believe in applied innovation. That's why we call Applied Innovation Exchange. We have about 22 of them all around the world,
Oh, wow.
including one in Hyderabad. We believe in applying and exchanging. So because the role of exchange also is important, because we can connect and have several examples, right? So a startup in the US may be working in India, or a startup in Singapore may be working in Canada, etc. So we have that exchange mechanism where we can look at where are the brilliant startups and where are the industry that are needing. The other observation, this is really even in my role over the last 4 to 5 years, is that we started to strongly believe innovation ecosystem, right? So, and the nice way to look at, and we plot this always, is, the degree of collaboration is proportional to degree of impact. So you open more innovation. It's not just about Capgemini solutions or innovation ourselves. It is about extending it to T-Hub, extending it to startups ecosystem. So more and more you collaborate, faster you create the impact. And end of the day, it is not just technology. It is also how are you making an impact to your customers. So me as a partner, I have to influence my customers' thinking as well as my customer to make end consumers thinking.
Correct.
So that way the impact gets built.
Yeah. So the entire value chain is what we are trying to build out, which means that right from the banks to the clients to the customers, the entire value chain, and then infuse innovation at every layer of that engagement.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You mentioned about the innovation exchanges that you mentioned, right? Any other such innovation in your current role as the CTIO, right? I'm very sure that you have the ability to impact and the ability to enable a lot of such initiatives.
Yeah.
Any other such initiatives that come to top of the mind which involves startups and innovation ecosystem with yourself and the banks behind you?
Yeah. So we also in our CTO organization, we look at future readiness, which is the technology which we started, innovation, how do I apply those future, that's the exchange, and also the third arm called ventures. So ventures has both business corporate ventures as well as startup ventures. So at any given point in time, we curate, go through list startups about couple of thousands, which is already available online. So I can go and visualize, okay, I'm in wealth management, what are the startup available? But even more importantly, we run a process called startup qualification. We also call it as ecosystem as a service. Qualification simply means is how will I make sure that my customer don't have to go through all the problems that potentially they can face, compliance, solution, compatibility, etc. So we qualify those startups and then we tick at different classification level, so that if I am a customer, I am consuming a startup, I already know what I'm going to get, what can be potential challenges, what I need to be aware of. So that job we do so that it sort of compresses the time. And that's exactly the layer where we will love to collaborate with T-Hub, because I think you do the job of incubation and making them ready, and we do the other layer of qualifying them to take it to the industry.
Amazing. I'll round out probably with the last question, right? And this is like a very open-ended question, right? You travel all over the world. You're more of a global personality than being limited to India or to Australia, right? Any interesting trends that you've seen around Horizon 2? I mean, we've talked a lot about Horizon 1, where how startups, innovation, and pilots and POCs which are going around and which have a visibility over the next 12 to 14 months, right? Or 2 years. Any Horizon 2 interesting concepts that you've seen which probably might fructify, which you think are worth mentioning about, will fructify 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now? I understand that you mentioned quant, because all of us understand that when it comes out, it's going to be like a game changer. Everything is going to hit the reset button, right, when that thing comes out. But like quant, or maybe you can talk a little more about quant, how quant is going to impact. And like quant, any other such similar technologies that you see which have a Horizon 2, Horizon 3 sort of a promising horizon?
Yeah, definitely. There are a few which are in the radar, and they're at different maturity. We sort of classify them, Horizon 1, 2, 3, or we also call now, new, next. So some are next, but you need to think about it now. Etc. Now, obviously, there are quite a few promising developments that are happening. I would think quantum is one of them, but even for quantum readiness, There is, for example, US already has an executive order and regulations that are out there. So that is of interest for post-quantum cryptography. That means I'll have to probably worry about vulnerability that I have even before quantum is going to come.
True.
So that is happening. I also see quite a bit of interest in digital twins kind of approach, both the physical twin as well as
Interesting.
physical
Yeah.
twin probably more for insurance, process twins for banking. Whether I'll be able to have a simulation techniques. I also see the whole AI, generative AI, taking probably the next leap in Horizon 2, more like we these days refer to as agents, AI agents. So we are thinking about, I wake up in the morning and I see I need a agent for scheduling. Then I may have my agent who will figure out how to get a loan. It's means agent will have the responsibility to find the best bank, best interest rates, talk to other agents, and so on and so forth. So building that autonomy for me.
Personalized financial agent. Wow, that sounds
Exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. So I think those are the things that we would see in Horizon 2 and 3, if I may so.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sudhir, for this amazing conversation. I would love to leave us on that dreamy Horizon 2, Horizon 3 note, and wishing all our startups so that they can create those Horizon 3 and Horizon 2, which we are eagerly looking out for. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you so much. Great pleasure. Thank you.